Hello everyone, today is 25th of September, now it's 10 past 11 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Ugledar and this is my first update in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Later on today I will publish on YouTube and the Rumble channels also a new episode of headlines with a short summary of the news that I will talk about in more detail with the commentary on during the second update on my Patreon and Boosty pages. And if you want to hear more news from Russia, more commentary, you're more than welcome to join our community either on Patreon or on Boosty. I publish second updates on both platforms, and links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. I really hope before end of this year our Patreon community will reach 200 members, and that will be, of course, great achievement that will secure this that will put this small media project of mine in more secure place. Well, that's been said, let's talk about news now. And first of all, Ugledar newspapers report that Russian armed forces entered Ugledar in South Donetsk sector of the front line, which is of course true. I reported about progress of the Russian armed forces in yesterday's first update. I shared more information about Russian progress in second update on Patreon. And the latest reports are that Russian troops entered Ugledar, not just from southern eastern side, which we knew already yesterday, but Russian troops also entered Ugledar from southern western side and established their foothold inside the city. Also, according to some sources, Kyiv regime is withdrawing from Ugledar more or less battle-capable units to use them somewhere else to somehow prolong this proxy war against Russia. And of course, most likely this decision by Kyiv regime was dictated by NATO, most likely. But in any case, we would not be mistaken if we will say for sure that Kyiv regime's defense lines in Ugledar direction collapsed completely, and no one should be surprised if Ugledar will become under full Russian control even before end of this week. That's how rapid Russian progress was and is in this direction. Next news is from TASS News, Interfax News Agency, and according to this report, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov arrived in New York to participate in the work of General Assembly of UN, which started yesterday on 24th of September and will last until 30th of September. Of course, Russian media will pay attention to statements of Russian delegations, activity of Russian delegations, also media worldwide, I guess, possibly with the exception of the media in collective West countries. But obviously, whenever there will be additional information on statements from Lavrov or other members of the Russian delegation, I will share this additional information on my Telegram channel or next updates. Also, RIA Novosti's report that about Zelensky's speech that he gave yesterday during this General Assembly on the first day of Assembly's work, and probably you already know what he has spoke about during his speech. It was all about threatening Russia and begging for more weapons and money, basically. He obviously mentioned some peace plan, peace formula, and all that garbage that he usually talks about. I really doubt that anybody really paid that much attention to him or his statements. Anyways, RBK News Agency is reporting that most likely President of US, Joe Biden, will make announcement about new military aid package for Kyiv regime while during his meeting with Zelensky that should take place on 26th of September, tomorrow. And simultaneously, most likely, we will hear some statements from White House about long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory. Let's translate this news basically, and interesting. I have to start to use another browser, by the way, because I'm really not happy with Yandex nowadays. One of the day On the day of his meeting with his Ukrainian counterpart, Vladimir Zelensky, US President Joe Biden will announce new steps to provide military aid. White House spokesman John Kirby has stated, according to him, Biden is committed to ensure that aid continues to flow to Ukraine. In addition, the president will discuss Kyiv's request to lift restrictions on long-range strikes on Russian territory by Western weapons. Kirby noted that Biden is still not ready to satisfy Ukraine's request. He has not changed his policy on this issue. His position remains the same. They are the instructions that we have given to Ukraine, quoted by RIA Novosti. So yes, tomorrow most likely we will hear about new aid package for Kyiv regime, and there are some statements about these long-range strikes. And if you ask me, unfortunately, I have very little doubts that these long-range strikes by NATO against Russia will take place. The only question I have personally is how Moscow will react. And I remind you, dear friends, that several days ago, a number of high-ranking Russian officials already stated that Moscow knows a decision about long-range strikes deep inside Russia already being made by major Western capitals, and its only formalization is left. Russian president was very clear how Moscow will assume these strikes. Putin stated that Moscow will see such strikes as direct involvement of the NATO member states into this conflict, and Russia will take appropriate steps in this regards. And that's why I'm saying, unfortunately, I have very little doubts that long-range strikes will take place. Only question is how Moscow will respond on that. Also, RBK News Agency is reporting that there was an article in Bloomberg according to which number of Western leaders are disappointed in Zelensky and his peace plan, and are now more in support of having discussion with the Russian leadership. Let's translate this news. Also, for more details. Western countries have taken Vladimir Zelensky's peace plan with their skepticism and are considering other options for resolving the current situation around Ukraine. This is reported by Bloomberg, citing officials familiar with the content of Zelensky's conversations with their foreign leaders. According to one of their agency's sources, the possible appeal of Ukraine's allies to Vladimir Putin without the participation of their intermediaries is being discussed on the eve of the G20 meeting, which is scheduled for November in Brazil. On the other hand, one of the Western leaders, who exactly is not mentioned, admitted that either Zelensky himself or one of the intermediaries should contact the Russian president. The same source told Bloomberg that there is nothing new in Zelensky's victory plan, so-called victory plan, and it will not radically change the situation. Another interviewee said that their plan is more like a wish list. At the same time, the allies indicated that they would like to support Ukraine for as long as necessary, but they want Zelensky to clearly explain what he means by peace with Russia. So this report clearly indicates, in my understanding, that there are some sort of fatigue among Western leadership. They want some off-ramp, as far as I understand, and they are not really happy with the developments that are taking place on a battlefield. They understand that they are losing, and they just want to save face, I guess, because the debacle gonna be huge, isn't it? Defeat of the Western ruling class in Ukraine gonna be like 10 times bigger and devastating in terms of optics for a collective West than US withdrawal from, or NATO withdrawal from Afghanistan, right? They all understand this. They are looking for off-ramp, And that's why recently more and more the so-called leaders in the collective West countries are talking about some new ways to resolve this this conflict, including in this particular case in Bloomberg's reporter, they even considering direct talks with Russian leadership, with Russian president. Interesting, and it is worth noticing that seems like Zelensky and his peace plan and peace formula and all that nonsense is no longer being seen in the West, at least by a number of the Western leaders, as something that they can speculate on, because no one is taking these peace formulas seriously. I mean, no one among world leaders outside of collective West willing to talk about this nonsense, really. It is what it is. The Novosti is also reporting that the foreign minister of Hungary, Peter Szijjártó, explained why these long-range strikes did not yet happen against Russia. And let's also go through this news. So Kyiv has not yet received permission to strike long-range weapons on the territory of the Russian Federation due to the fact that there are a couple of sensible people among the Western leaders. Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Economic Relations, Peter Szijjártó, said on their M1 TV channel. Among the Western allies, there are still one or two sensible voices capable of sober assessments. Actually, thanks to this, there was still no permission for long-range strikes deep into Russia. We sincerely hope that no one will cross this red line, Szijjártó said. The Washington Post reported on Tuesday that Ukraine was unable to provide the United States with a convincing argument in favor of allowing to launch strikes with Western weapons deep into Russian territory. Although earlier, the newspaper Politico, citing British officials, wrote that the United States and Great Britain may declare granting Kyiv such a permission during their high-level week of the UN General Assembly, which is being held in New York from September 24 to September 30. So, well, it is interesting statements from Szijjártó. I will agree with him, obviously, that there are a number of sensible people among leadership of their collective West countries, and I will name Szijjártó himself also, although, of course, he did not speak about him, but I will say that Szijjártó is definitely one of the leaders of the collective West countries that deserves respect worldwide. Also, of course, Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, Prime Minister of Slovakia, Roberto Fico, and his colleagues in the government of Slovakia. There are some other officials in the West that are raising their voices, calling for adequacy to their colleagues, directly or indirectly. But unfortunately, vast majority of the leadership in collective West is extreme Russophobe and on the page of further escalation with Russia. And that's why, dear friends, I'm saying that unfortunately I have very little doubts that this long-range strikes by NATO, not by Kyiv regime, by the way, don't make mistake on that. This is not gonna be Kyiv regime strike. It's gonna be NATO's direct strike on Russia if and when these long-range strikes will take place, and that's how Moscow will see those strikes. And Russian President Vladimir Putin was very clear on that, and also a number of other high-ranking Russian officials. So therefore, I only have one question now: how Moscow will react. Although, of course, I hope same time I hope I'm being too skeptical, and some sensible people in the Western world will prevail, and among leadership of the Western world will prevail, and they will block this next level of escalation with Russia. But will they be able to achieve this? I don't know. Yet again, maybe I'm just too skeptical. I don't know. But interesting statements from Szijjártó, that's for sure. And dear friends, next news is about a TV presenter from Lithuania who basically openly called for killing of parents in front of their kids if those parents are watching Russian movies or listening to Russian music. And I don't know how should I comment on that. This TV presenter basically was forced then to apologize because I guess there are some people in EU's leadership that don't really feel comfortable to be associated with such states like Lithuania, Nazi and fascist states like Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. And they definitely don't want to be associated with such statements like this TV presenter made to kill parents up front of their kids for watching Russian movies and listening Russian music, by the way. This is insanity, isn't it? This is insanity. Level of Russophobia clearly making those, many people in the collective West, especially, go absolutely crazy. And they are becoming total disgrace of humanity for sure. And let's translate this news. Let me provide you with more details on that. So just a sec. So Lithuanian TV host Algis Ramanauskas apologized for his harsher remarks against Russian culture, noting that they were not directed against Russian residents. Yeah, of course, he meant aliens probably from Andromeda Galaxy that are watching Russian movies and they're listening to Russian music. Even apologies of these Nazis and fascists are disgrace, really. So TV presenter of the Lithuanian national television and active blogger Algis Ramanauskas posted a text on the social network Facebook apologizing to Russian residents of Lithuania for the calls to kill for Russian films and music. The apology came after criticism of his comments, which many perceived as a threat to Russians in Lithuania, reports TASS news agency. In his post, Ramanauskas stressed that some of his words may have been misunderstood. How are you going to misunderstood when he is directly saying that parents should be killed up front of their kids for watching Russian movies or listening Russian music? How are you going to misinterpret such a appalling statement? He confirmed his sincere apologies and explained that his statements concerned Lithuanians who consume Russian products and not Russian people. Yet again, Ramanauskas also noted that his words were part of a satirical commentary that, in his opinion, is used in Russian propaganda, and added that his criticism was directed at the phenomenon that he calls the Russian world. According to newspaper Ugledar, TV presenter Algis Ramanauskas in Lithuania suggested shooting parents who listen to Russian music or watch Russian movies in front of their children. And this is, dear friends, face of the so-called elites in the Lithuania. And if you think elites, so-called elites in Latvia or Estonia are any different or any better, I have Everest Mountain to sell you. They are worst human beings, dear friends. Worst of the worst, this so-called elites, political class, including these so-called elites in public figures like this TV presenter. They are worst of the worst, by the way. Of the humankind. And even apology is not sincere, isn't it? That he's trying to somehow justify that it was a satire. It was he did not mean Russians and what he meant, or Russian speakers in Lithuania. And who he meant then? Really aliens from Andromeda Galaxy that are, fans, big fans of Russian music and Russian movies, or what? Unbelievable, man. As I said, this Russophobia, this hatred, dear friends, is making these people just go completely crazy. It's sad. It's sad, man. Level of deterioration of humanity in number of among elites in the collective West countries, man. It's scary also. It's scary also because when people are openly saying that kind of stuff, they are most likely well capable to applaud if something like that will start happening also. And this is clearly a face of modern Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia for sure, and this is clearly a face of the so-called elites in the West. They are all the same, man. RT is reporting that there are new round of row between Warsaw and Kyiv, I guess, because Andrzej Duda, president of Poland, once again spoke about past actions of the Ukrainian Nazis and their collaboration with the Nazi Germany, their participation in mass killings of their Polish people and also Jewish people, Russian people, Belarusian people, even people that were seeing themselves as Ukrainians but were opposing this genocidal actions of the Nazi Ukrainians. Even they were killed in mass. And this is, of course, happening during the Second World War. And this topic lately did become more and more active in Poland, because I guess many Polish citizens are not okay that Warsaw is supporting regime in Kyiv that clearly is leaning towards this Nazi and fascist ideology, right? So Ukraine has problems with its history. Polish President Andrzej Duda has stated, highlighting Kyiv's collaboration with the Nazi Germany and its involvement in the Holocaust during the World War II. Well, Andrzej Duda is making, of course, a historical mistake. Kyiv did not participate in this. Kyiv was a capital of Soviet Ukraine. And the local government did not collaborate with Nazis. Maybe some criminals that somehow end up in state institutions did, but not on official level. But what is historically accurate is that in the western parts of Ukraine, Ukrainian Nazis, under leadership of Bandera, Shukhevich, and a number of other mass murderers and criminals, they formed their military formations. They collaborated with the Nazis. They were part of SS units, and were killing and conducting mass killings of everybody that were not joining their ranks, basically, or not sympathizing with their ideology. So it was not the Kyiv, but it was Nazi Ukrainians. Andrzej Duda should be more specific on that. So Ukraine has, because one should remember that Ukraine was created by Bolsheviks, right? After a revolution. Before that, there was no such a state entity, kingdom or something like that, a republic under the name of Ukraine. This is totally creation of the Bolsheviks, right? So Ukraine has a problem with its history. Polish President Andrzej Duda has stated, highlighting Kyiv's collaboration, yet again, Ukrainian Nazis' collaboration with the Nazi Germany and its involvement in the Holocaust during the World War II. In an interview with their Mossad News on Monday, the Polish leader pointed to difficult topics between Warsaw and Kyiv, especially their Volyn massacre, their mass killing of ethnic Poles by Ukrainian nationalists during the World War II. And then quote here, please remember that Ukrainians have many problems with their history. This is not only the problem of Volyn massacre, but also service in SS units, collaboration with the authorities of the Third Reich, and their participation in the Holocaust. Duda said the remark came amid the recent tensions between Ukraine and Poland, despite Warsaw being of Kyiv's key backer in its conflict with Moscow. So yes, I guess many Poles are not okay with Warsaw's support to this Ukrainian Nazi and terrorist regime in Kyiv. But same time, I guess Polish leadership is operating with the principle enemy of my enemy is my friend. They are Russophobes, by the way. Polish elites are extreme Russophobes, and they are trying to use Ukraine to sacrifice Ukraine's citizens as much as possible to anyway harm Russia. And they are closing eyes on this obvious truth that by doing so they are allying with the very same Nazis and the fascists that were participating with the people that have very same ideology, Nazi and fascist ideology, that Ukrainian Nazis had during the Second World War, whom then killed these 100,000 Poles, tens of thousands of Poles, Jews and Russians and everybody that they basically did not like. So I don't know if this how long Poland gonna be able to play this dirty game and act on the principle my enemy is my friend. But that's what they do. That's what they do. They hate Nazi Ukrainians, their friends. In reality, they hate them, and they remember perfectly well what Nazi Ukrainians did to Poles and there are many other peoples. But their hatred towards Russia are even bigger because they are Russophobes, And this difficult relationships between Poland and Russia goes back to history when there was a Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, isn't it? And Poland was kind of empire on its own on the European continent, and was neutralized by Russian. And I guess among Polish elites there is this phantom pains, let's say, about losing this former status as a major player on the European continent, and this hatred towards Russia comes from here, I guess. Roots are somewhere there in deep into history. I don't know, and Polish friends from in our community can explain better from where this utter hatred of Russia coming from among Polish elites, and also in Polish public, by the way. I should say that if you conduct social studies, probably majority of Poles will express their negative attitude towards Russia. And if you ask why, most likely they will struggle to give you a proper answer or a logical answer. Most likely. Some may say, what, Russia occupied the eastern parts of Poland and give it to Ukraine, and that's a reason we don't really like Russians. But I don't know, roots of these difficult relationships are going far in history than the Second World War. I think Polish elites never come to terms that this Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which was basically Polish Empire, as I said, ceased to exist. And yes, Russia played its role in that. obviously, because they were competing with each other, and Russia prevailed. But to hate Russia forever now for something that has happened centuries ago, I mean, I don't think that's an adequate way to go forward. But yet again, and I mean, if they want to hate us, okay, let them. I mean, what can I do about it? So yes, let's go through some other news, dear friends. Let's go through some other news, and I will just add that this escalation, these tensions between Warsaw and Kyiv obviously will be used at some point by Warsaw to reclaim former territories in the western Ukraine, for sure. And I see this confrontation definitely as a preparation of the ground for Warsaw to do exactly that, to make this historical step and reclaim land in the western Ukraine that used to be part of Poland before Second World War. And I'm quite sure that will happen, although the question is how Germany will react on that, because in the compensation, many people don't talk about it, but when Soviet Union took some territories from Poland, eastern territories, and give it to the Soviet Ukraine that was created by Bolsheviks, in compensation, Poland received significant territories from Germany as a compensation. And I guess many Germans will raise the questions: if Poland is reclaiming its territory, then we should receive our territory back also. And in those territories still, by the way, significant number of Germans are living. Territories that was given to Poland, right? So I expect some serious tensions between Warsaw and Berlin once Poland will reclaim this land in western Ukraine. Anyways, let's continue. Ugledar newspaper is reporting that Hezbollah, according to Hezbollah statement, they conduct a missile strike on headquarters of Mossad, Israel's secret service. For this strike, Kader-1 ballistic missile was used. No reports about how effective this strike was, if missile even reached headquarters. No details basically on this matter, but information itself is interesting. That and there also demonstrates capabilities of Hezbollah. Obviously, unfortunately, tensions between Israel and Hezbollah or Lebanon only increasing, and at this point we don't really have any indicators that the situation will de-escalate. It's exactly the opposite is happening, sadly. RT is reporting that Trump's protection to be enhanced, so security around former US President Donald Trump will be heightened in light of recent assassination attempts on the Republican presidential nominee. NBC News reported on Monday, citing Secret Service officials. And well, it is good, obviously, that security will be increased, security of Trump. But question is, what security service was waiting for? Why it took so long? I mean, why Trump is not secure already? I don't know. I have many questions about U.S. Secret Services because I don't think these attacks, these assassination attempts on Trump, was random actions of some crazy individuals. I don't want to go into conspiracy theories, but I think there might be some connections between U.S. Secret Services and their deep state and their attacks on Trump. After all, U.S. has a rich history, isn't it? U.S. has a rich history of assassinations of its presidents and their attacks on the presidents, right? So, and there, even though officially we don't yet know what had happened with the Kennedy, who organized all that terrorist attack, basically. But I think very few people have any doubts that it was done by CIS, with CIA's involvement, right? With US Secret Services involvement. So US deep state is a monster, by the way. US deep state and this intelligence community, they are monsters. They can do whatever they want, seems like, or at least they are acting in a way that they can do whatever they want in the US and on the world stage. RT is also reporting that EU states declares war on beavers, by the way. So Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has called for decisive action against beavers, suggesting the industrious rodents are partially responsible for severe flooding across the country. The Prime Minister made the remarks on Saturday during their meeting with the cabinet members and the local officials at the crisis headquarters managing the flood response in the southwestern city of Lagov. Tusk called for a quick action to tackle the disaster, urging municipalities to swiftly report their needs as well as to closely monitor the conditions of their dams still standing. Sizable part of his speech, however, was dedicated to beavers, with Tusk suggesting the creatures were partly to blame for the disaster and that their action against their presence at man-made earthworks was needed. Thanks God they did not blame Russia, by the way, for this flooding. There was some accusations of Russia against Russia that Moscow is conducting some sort of media psychological operation to undermine Polish society's trust to the government and some crazy stuff like that. But thanks God the Polish leadership did not went as far as to blame Russia for flooding. They find another source, beavers, by the way. Okay, beavers to be blamed. Holy moly, man, what is going on in Poland? what is happening? Of course, beavers can build some dams. They can do some stuff, by the way, but to blame beavers for rainfall and for failure of their dams and their poor response of their emergency services, that's whole next level of I don't know, craziness on part of Polish leadership. Poor beavers, by the way. Poor beavers. Interfax is reporting that, prices on Brent crude oil are increasing, continue to increase, and they reach, yesterday afternoon, they reached $75.5 for a barrel, which is not bad, definitely for oil producer nations, including Russia. And I remind you, friends, that as far as I know, Russian Urals crude price on Russian Urals crude is somewhat connected with the prices on Brent crude, so and are somewhat similar. So yes, $75 for a barrel. I guess it's a good enough price for Russia, although not for all oil producer nations. I guess optimal price would be about 80-85, and maybe despite the predictions of there are some Western financial institutions that next year in 2025 average oil price will be about $60, I think situation may develop in the world in such a way that prices may even reach way above $100, especially if escalation in the Middle East will continue and if Western ruling class will manage to provoke regional war there and shut down Hormuz Strait and navigation in the Persian Gulf. In that case, prices may not just reach $100, but go way above that, because currently no oil producer nations outside of Middle East, outside of Persian Gulf, are capable to rapidly compensate for a volume of oil and LNG that will be absent on the world market if navigation is collapsed in in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. So yeah, situation is quite fragile in this world, obviously, and oil prices quite often are a reflection of that. And this is it for today's update. Hopefully you'll find it informative, interesting, entertaining. That will be of course great. And if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. Let's try and tackle algorithm. By the way, my channel, as you know, is in shadow ban, and it is extremely difficult to reach wider audience. Very rarely my videos are appearing in recommendations, and the only way we can somehow influence the situation is likes and comments, and also, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends in real life or on internet, on the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, if you like my work, if you like my channels, if you think me and my channel deserve to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. As I said, later on today I will publish headlines on YouTube and the Rumble channels, and the second update will be published on my Patreon and Boosty pages. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.